interesting speech made by Garrett about copyrights. I would first like to start off with the fact that my opponent seems to make the claim the current model of copyright law is restricted to consumers, yet his argument is phrased in a way that makes the audience unsure of what his true claim of fact is. Sometimes I'm not sure if the argument is a claim of fact or proposition claim. Is it that the copyrights are harmful, or that we as a society should get rid of DRM, digital rights management? You claim one thing yet talk about something else. So I am going to assume that the real claim of fact is that the copyright model and the current model of copyright law is ineffectual. Furthermore, there is no evidential support. He starts the first minute and a half of his argument with solely background information, which no one is disputing, simply telling us unnecessary information. He gives a first example in that there is a $200 fine for stealing music should be in place. People are pirating and stealing movies more than ever now, and companies are losing millions in profit. So what do you want us to do about it? The best way that we have protecting people, this is the best we have of protecting people's ideas today. His first and only secondary claim is that the current copyright laws fails to translate well into modern digital media economies. But what economies should copyright laws translate well into? My opponent then goes on for another minute explaining what DRMs are and how they are used before telling us about the DRM laws, which were created in 1976. Not very current at all. His first example is that DRM prevents media sharing, which would be fine if his only example was actually verifiable, but it's not. He gives us a personal instance in losing media due to lost software, but never any statistical information or examples, no accounts from other people, let alone a representative body. He continues this with how iTunes will not transfer to music from iTunes will not transfer to a Zune or another media sharing device due to DRMs. Yet Apple iTunes got rid of DRMs back in 2009. Following that, Garrett confuses listeners again in his second illustration of his supporting claim when he states the design of the system equates copying and parroting with stealing and vandalism. It does not explain how, only giving us an outdated and false example. He illustrates an instance where the leader of the cartoon group Air Pirates named Dan O'Neill was imprisoned after being found guilty of copyright infringement on Disney. Not only was he not imprisoned, which makes the example not factual, but also the case was from the 1970s. The closest thing to modern digital software was vinyl. Later, Garrett supports his third point and the inability for users to translate and manipulate media in unintended ways removes the benefits of such electronic media. He attempts to depict this through his instance where tools for helping the blind use media is blocked by copyrights. However, what my opponent fails to realize is how companies such as Audible Listener make a profit, charging a small fee of only $15 a month that is compatible with not only computers, but also iPhones, Androids, Kindles, Windows and tablets. But even excluding that, there are tons of sites and programs that are free that will help read books and play music for those who are visually challenged. Thus, the claims stated are not only confusing and vague, but also off-topic. The examples used are outdated to say the least. Although it is nice to know about the subject, Garrett does very little on telling us why copyrights are restrictive to consumers. Unfortunately, there is not much to refute in this argument. Copyright laws are there to protect people's ideas and creation. Without copyright laws, musicians, movie stars, TV stars, and anyone who's ever made a successful product would not have gotten the money they rightfully deserve. How can you say that it is bad for us when they help keep peace in society by giving credit to those where credit is due? In conclusion, the actual current copyright law is not restrictive or harmful at all to consumers.
All right, you stated the issue pretty clearly. You dismissed basically the whole first section in the argument, suggesting that it's all just informational in nature, and you do suggest at one point that the actual inference is an explanation as to how this is supposedly going to hurt consumers in some ways, so that's the way you're going to focus on it. And I thought that that was relatively clear. On your first point, I think you needed a clearer claim, because basically what you say is, so what should they do about this? You know, what should be the implication? I think at the end of the speech you pretty much have a good counterclaim here, and that is it's doing exactly what it should be doing, and it's necessary for us to have this as an option. The fact that the law was passed in 1976 doesn't necessarily mean that it's not applicable now. The argument is, are there any current cases that show that digital rights are being harmed by that old law? That's basically what the argument comes down to. And I think that you did a reasonable job about pressing him on evidence on these particular points. The absence of any data of his own, except for his own personal experience, I thought was good. You do suggest, for instance, that Apple eliminated the use of this kind of DRM in 2009. I do think you need some source citation on that. I'm not saying that you're making it up, but you ought to be providing us with a source for that information. On the next issue, about how consumers might be affected by the way they exploit the information, you challenge the evidence that he has. He's got a single example. You suggest that it occurred prior to most of these digital issues. A little sarcasm there with the LP reference. I kind of appreciated that. And then you argue that, in essence, that, this is for like the media for the blind, that it's perfectly acceptable for somebody to make a profit on the products that they offer, and it's a nominal fee that they're charging. The claim that there are free programs and other ways that people could get access to those things, I think you need a little bit of proof on that. I thought that the general answer that you gave at the end about how copyrights are supposed to work, and that this is in fact a good thing as opposed to a bad thing, was pretty clearly explained. All right, thank you.